On this Tuesday night, the growing calls to step down. The Prime Minister under pressure, his own MPs divided.
The Prime Minister is living in a false reality.
Support the Prime Minister, of course.
Plus new details about what led to Chrystia Freeland's resignation. Trump's tariff threats get results. Ottawa unveils Canada's new billion-dollar border plan.
It's an important step to show that we share their concern around border security.
But will it be enough to appease the incoming U.S. president? Plus, you've got mail. Thousands of postal workers are back to work for the first time in weeks.
There's many packages stuck here.
What this massive backlog means for your mail.
It's going to take some time.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. We begin with the fallout from that bombshell resignation of Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland on Monday and the growing calls for Justin Trudeau's resignation, including from within his own party. The Prime Minister has remained tight-lipped on the matter. While speaking tonight at the Liberal caucus holiday party, he made little more than a veiled reference to the Liberal Party's infighting.
It's hard not to feel happy when we're like this among Liberals, among family, because that's what we really are, a big family. Now, like most families, sometimes we have fights around the holidays. But of course, like most families, we find our way through it.
Trudeau has reportedly told his colleagues behind closed doors that he plans to take some time to reflect on next steps. Our chief political correspondent, David Akin, joins us now with more on what to expect. David.
Well, Jeff, it's the day after Chrystia Freeland's bombshell decision to quit cabinet, and Justin Trudeau's MPs are lining up on different sides about the Prime Minister's future.
Mr. Trudeau, how do you plan to keep your caucus on side? How are you?
Caucus sources say about 1/3 of Liberals want Justin Trudeau to go. This Montreal MP is one of them.
We need a centrist party with a different leader to offer another option of change to Canadians versus what the Conservatives are now offering.
And there's about 1/3 of Liberals who want Trudeau to stay.
He's the Prime Minister. We elected him. He's won 3 elections.
And then there's those in the middle. Asked directly about their support for Trudeau, they'll give answers like this.
And you have confidence in the Prime Minister?
I have confidence in the caucus to work together and effectively manage what is necessary to support the country.
I'm glad the Prime Minister is reflecting on the way ahead. At the heart of that reflection, I think, needs to be a view that says that no individual is bigger than the country, and so that's where I'm at.
Trudeau may be able to survive a divided caucus, but losing more cabinet ministers could be fatal.
Minister McKinnon, do you still have confidence in the Prime Minister?
Yes, of course.
And many other ministers said the same thing.
Yes.
But some, like Mental Health Minister Yourex-West, wouldn't answer the question. Do you have confidence still in the Prime Minister?
Sir, do you still have confidence in the Prime Minister?
Neither did Justice Minister Arif Virani.
The Prime Minister's ability to do the job?
Or the best man at Trudeau's wedding, Immigration Minister Mark Miller. He just walked by reporters when asked. Now, there is no formal mechanism within the Liberal Party to depose a leader. Not even losing an election forces a Liberal leader to quit. Not even losing half his cabinet would. And if Trudeau is going to go, it's going to be his decision. And the feeling among Liberals right now is that the Prime Minister will make a decision about staying or going after Christmas. Jeff.
David Akin in Ottawa. Thanks, David. And there was more bad news for the federal Liberals. The party lost a BC by-election by a landslide. Conservative candidate Tamara Jansen won the Metro Vancouver riding of Cloverdale-Langley City, which was held by the Liberals, capturing 66.5% of the vote, though voter turnout was just 16%. Jansen previously served as the riding's Conservative MP from 2019 to 2021. It's the third time this year that the Liberals have lost a seat after a by-election. In the letter announcing her resignation from cabinet, Chrystia Freeland said that Justin Trudeau told her on Friday that he would be removing her as finance minister. And yesterday, Dominic LeBlanc was sworn in as her replacement. But Global News has learned that Trudeau had other plans for that important political post. Mercedes Stephenson joins me now from Ottawa. So, Mercedes, what more are you hearing about what led to Freeland's resignation?
Well, Jeff, we're finding out the details of what happened on Friday that's led to this political train wreck for the Prime Minister. He had a video conference meeting with the Finance Minister. This was not done in person. And in that meeting, Global News has been told that he informed Chrystia Freeland not only did he no longer want her to be the Minister of Finance for him, as he had lost confidence in her, but that he was going to replace her with Mark Carney. Now, of course, Mark Carney, the former governor of the Bank of Canada and governor of the Bank of England. There's been rumors about him joining politics for a long time. And the Prime Minister in this call told Chrystia Freeland she was going to be replaced, but she was still to deliver the fall economic statement on Monday and then would be removed shortly thereafter. Obviously, that did not go down well amidst tensions between PMO and the Finance Minister's office for months now. And it led to what we saw unfold here, both in terms of their disagreements over some policies and financial plans, but really that personal moment and that relationship blowing up of her being told she was being replaced with Mark Carney. Now, we don't know, by the way, why Mark Carney did not appear in that role. If he hadn't accepted it, if he declined it after the fact, we still have not been able to obtain that information.
Very interesting. And Mercedes, these questions around Trudeau's leadership come as the government prepares for the inauguration of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump with that looming tariff threat. So how does the government move forward on that hugely important file?
Well, it's a difficult thing for them to concentrate on right now, as you can imagine. For example, we were supposed to have an interview with the Prime Minister tomorrow. These are his traditional year-end interviews he does with the media. It has been canceled. All of his year-end interviews have now been canceled, Jeff. So you can tell that they are struggling just to figure out what to do going forward in the future. But they have got to set out clear pathways to talk to the United States, even in the middle of this political crisis. And I think they're hoping that things will calm down over the Christmas break. At this point, sources close to Justin Trudeau tell me he still plans on staying. But of course, in politics, a day can be a long time. So we'll have to wait and see what happens.
All right. Sorry about the interview. Mercedes Stephenson in Ottawa. Thanks, Mercedes. Responding to Trump's tariff threat, the federal government unveiled a new billion-dollar border plan. The announcement by Canada's public safety minister includes more resources to monitor the flow of people and illegal drugs across the border. Mackenzie Gray on what the government is proposing.
For the first time since Donald Trump's victory, a glimpse of what the Liberals plan to do to handle the incoming U.S. president and his demands.
There will be a sharp focus on fentanyl, human smuggling, and organized transnational crime.
To do that, the RCMP will get a new aerial task force equipped with helicopters. Chemicals involved in making fentanyl will be banned, alongside more money for drug detection, and a pitch to organize a joint task force with the Americans. But the announcement had no details or timelines.
I can't just buy a helicopter tomorrow, but there are processes where you can rent the helicopter, and we're exploring every facet that we can.
The cost, $1.3 billion, a part of trying to placate the incoming president, who's railed against what he's called the invasion of fentanyl and illegal immigrants from Canada, threatening a 25% tariff on all Canadian goods going to the States.
I think these are the kinds of things that could potentially make a political difference. Whether or not they'd make a material difference is a really open question.
A material difference hard to make on a nearly 9,000-kilometer border with no new RCMP or CBSA officers announced.
And what we don't have is people who can actually respond when one of these sensors goes off, because the closest Mountie post will be like 45 minutes away.
To get any of those new tools, the money needs to pass the House of Commons, part of the fall economic statement that will face a steep battle to become law. The Conservatives previously said they'd help pass a border plan, but were non-committal today.
Wouldn't it be nice if we had a prime minister who said, we secured the borders, we put more boots on the ground?
Leaving the NDP as the best potential partner, they're still leaving the door open to working with the Liberals, despite calling on Justin Trudeau to quit.
People are having a really difficult time, and they're really worried about what the Trump tariffs will mean for their jobs. So I said what I said, Trudeau has to go.
The Liberals also announced additional immigration measures, including allowing the minister to suspend or revoke someone's visa, Jeff, if it's deemed in the public interest.
Mackenzie Gray in Ottawa. Thanks, Mac. A Toronto man accused of plotting an Islamic State-inspired terrorist attack on Canadian soil is now facing war crimes charges. Ahmed Al-Didi appeared in an Ontario court yesterday, charged with 4 counts of war crimes, including torture, murder, and mutilation. It's the first national security investigation where war crimes charges have been laid in Canada. Global News first revealed that Al-Didi was allegedly seen in a 2015 ISIS video dismembering a prisoner. The 62-year-old from Egypt was granted Canadian citizenship in 2018. He was arrested along with his son in July on terrorism charges. At the time, the RCMP said the 2 men were in the advanced stages of planning a serious, violent attack in Toronto. And turning to breaking news now, 2 police officers on Vancouver Island have been charged with sexually assaulting a young woman whom they allegedly met while on duty in 2019.
Although the woman was an adult when the alleged offenses occurred, she was in a vulnerable position when she met the officers and when the unlawful conduct occurred.
Sergeant Matthew Ball and Constable Ryan Johnston with the Central Saanich Police Service were arrested this morning. Ball had previously worked in Calgary. Investigators are asking anyone with information to contact them. Well, the mail is moving once again. Canada Post employees returned to work today. For the first time in more than 4 weeks, 55,000 striking workers were ordered back to the job after the federal government intervened, and they now face an enormous backlog. Heather Yourex-West reports on when to expect your Christmas cards.
With picket lines packed and mail trucks moving, Canada Post's month-long strike came to an end.
It's going to take some time to restart the postal system. It's meant to be on all the time, so it's been shut down for a month. It's not like just plugging a refrigerator back in.
Thousands of employees reported back to work at 8 a.m. Tuesday, though in Halifax,
no peace!
Things were delayed by what the local union said was a demonstration in support of postal workers by union allies.
The allies have set up the picket line because they believe that the government sending us to the CIRB and the CIRB ordering us back to work is unconstitutional.
Solidarity! By late morning, the Halifax postal workers returned to work as well. Their first priority, more than 1 million letters and parcels that had been left languishing in the system, like the mountain of packages stacked at Kitsilano Stamps Plus.
You can see there's many packages stuck here, and we almost all run out of the room, have no more space to take more packages.
To work through its backlog, Canada Post says it will not be accepting new mail until Thursday, and no mail from international customers until next week, with delivery delays to be expected into January at least.
We don't want to make any commitments that we can't meet up to, obviously, because the last thing we want to do is disappoint Canadians once again.
The Canadian Federation of Independent Business estimates nationally the strike cost small businesses $100 million a day. The back-to-work order only a short-term solution. If a new collective bargaining agreement can't be negotiated this spring, 2025 may deliver another round of disruption. Heather Yourex-West, Global News, Calgary.
The Canadian dollar dipped below 70 cents US today for the first time since the pandemic began in 2020. And it comes as Canada's inflation rate dropped to 1.9%, driven by lower gas prices and Black Friday discounts. But many Canadians are still struggling to make ends meet. And Gaviola explains why.
Canada's annual inflation rate cooled in November, which sounds like good news, but most Canadians still feel stretched.
The deals aren't what they used to be. The prices aren't what they used to be. So it's just to get what we want for our kids, to have the same experiences. It's probably a 30% increase minimum.
Statistics Canada reported a broad-based slowing in price hikes, but the cumulative impact of years of high inflation still weighs on household budgets.
Over the past 3 years, both shelter and food costs have risen nearly 20%.
Canadians aren't looking at, line graphs and pie charts to determine how they're feeling. Right now, they're really feeling like they are under a lot of pressure.
There were temporary factors like the Taylor Swift effect, creating a record spike in Toronto hotel prices.
Taylor Swift played 6 shows in Toronto over the course of over a week and really and truly took over the downtown core.
Oh, Toronto, we are so back!
Swifties who could afford it spared no expense to see her live, but most households are singing a different tune this holiday season.
Everybody's sort of agreeing that just getting together and spending time with people is a little bit more important than spending a lot of money on each other.
According to Ipsos polling exclusively for Global News, 3/4 of Canadians say inflation and interest rates have significantly impacted their budget. And 4 in 10 say they'll spend less this year. Only 1 in 10 plan to spend more. This despite the tax holiday, a controversial policy designed to encourage spending. Young people in particular report having more trouble making ends meet and getting ahead.
And they can't even participate in holiday traditions to the degree that they would like to, which is, it's somewhat depressing to hear that this time of year.
This as more of us make our lists and check them twice to see if there's anywhere else we can save. Jeff?
And Gaviola in Toronto. Thanks, Anne. A high-profile assassination on Russian soil. Coming up, the blast in central Moscow that killed a top Russian general. What his death could mean for the Kremlin's war in Ukraine. Ukraine is claiming responsibility for the bombing death of a top Russian general in Moscow. Igor Kirillov was the head of Russia's nuclear, biological, chemical defense forces. He was killed by an explosive device hidden inside an e-scooter. As Redmond Shannon reports, it's the latest high-profile assassination on Russian soil and a boost to Ukrainian troops struggling on the eastern battlefields.
Lieutenant General Igor Kirillov and a colleague leave a Moscow apartment building. A split second later, a bomb explodes and kills them both. Russian authorities say the device was planted inside the e-scooter leaning against the wall, shown here in the aftermath. Just hours before, Ukraine had charged Kirillov in absentia with war crimes. He allegedly deployed internationally banned chemical weapons on Ukrainian battlefields thousands of times, something Russia denies. Russian authorities are calling the attack terrorism. Ukraine has not officially commented, but Kyiv officials have reportedly said they were behind the attack.
This is clearly the most senior military official that has been killed on his home turf.
For the past 7 years, Kirillov has headed up Russia's nuclear, biological and chemical defense forces and was also part of the Kremlin's information war. He has claimed without evidence that the U.S. had been building biological weapons labs in Ukraine, and even that Ukraine was deploying drones filled with infected mosquitoes.
It's got to stop.
In less than 5 weeks, Donald Trump takes office in Washington, after which the Kremlin may expect him to propose a peace deal.
Bringing war inside Russia, that is an effort to show that they cannot actually negotiate from the point of strength and to expose that the king is naked, that Russia is projecting a power much bigger than it actually is.
On Tuesday, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the potential future deployment of foreign peacekeeping troops in Ukraine could be discussed with European leaders this week. Jeff?
Redmond Shannon in London. Thanks, Red. New evidence is emerging of the horrors that Syrians endured under the Assad regime. Suspected mass graves have now been discovered near the capital, Damascus. An international war crimes prosecutor says that since 2013, more than 100,000 people were tortured and murdered. Satellite imagery shows large-scale digging that began around 2012 and continued until just 2 years ago. A failed uprising and subsequent civil war led to a brutal government crackdown in that country. Specialized teams are now analyzing those remains. Israel is denying reports that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is heading to Cairo for talks on a ceasefire and hostage deal in Gaza. Israel says Netanyahu visited Syria's highest peak near the border with the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Netanyahu says Israel will occupy a buffer zone inside Syria as a temporary security measure. Israeli troops took control of the demilitarized zone after Syrian President Bashar al-Assad was ousted earlier this month. It is believed to be the first time an Israeli prime minister has gone this far into Syria. Paul Watson walks free. Still ahead, the Canadian anti-whaling campaigner is released from custody. That is the terrifying moment that a magnitude 7.3 earthquake shook the South Pacific island nation of Vanuatu. It's killed at least one person, collapsed buildings, and triggered landslides in the capital. The quake has also knocked communication systems offline, making additional details hard to come by. Vanuatu is currently under a state of emergency. India has tightened restrictions around New Delhi in an effort to cope with extreme pollution. The city is shrouded in that toxic haze. The air quality index rose above 400 on a scale of 0 to 500, prompting the government to call an emergency meeting. Offices have been directed to stagger working hours and allow 50% of employees to work from home. Schools are also moving to hybrid learning. Northern India experiences severe pollution every winter as temperatures drop and cold air traps pollution. Denmark has released Canadian-American anti-whaling activist Paul Watson from detention in Greenland. Watson, who's known for his past confrontations with whalers and seal hunters, was arrested when he docked his ship in the Danish territory back in July. At the time, Greenland police were acting on an international arrest warrant that was issued by Japan. It accuses Watson of obstructing a Japanese whaling vessel in the Antarctic Ocean back in 2010, causing injury and property damage. Watson denies those allegations. Light up a life. Still ahead, how this Halifax hospice is marking the holidays. Welcome back. Christmas lights and holiday displays are almost everywhere you look right now. And in Halifax, one organization is lighting up more than just their building.
If you wanted to think she was larger in life before, she's much larger in life tonight, and for the next 3 weeks. And we just thought, wow, this is unbelievable.
Hospice Halifax is lighting up the lives of families and friends who have lost loved ones. The organization's annual initiative provides a place where people can find support and remember and honor those whom they'll be missing this Christmas. And that is Global National for this Tuesday. I'm Jeff Semple. Tonight's Your Canada is this festive brewery in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. We love to see your Canada, so please email your photos to globalnational@globalnews.ca. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you back here tomorrow. Have a great night.